Colorado's restaurants and their workers are facing some real challenges these days. There's agreement on that, but not so much agreement on a few controversial ideas on how to help, like how to pay tipped workers in the state's priciest places to live. Our Jennifer Meckles starts us off tonight with that.
Everyone goes to restaurants. Everyone sort of thinks they understand how they work behind the scenes. And they're a lot more complex than I think most people realize.
At the Greenwich in Denver, owner Dolores Tronco says few things are trickier than the nuance of payroll.
So there are a number of things, but really one thing stands out above all others. And that most difficult thing is the tipped minimum wage.
Denver's minimum wage is now $18.81, $4 higher than the state minimum wage. Today, Denver's tipped employees make at least $15.79, and they're guaranteed the difference if they don't make it up in tips.
With Denver's tipped minimum wage, now one of the very highest in the country, it's become a real existential threat to restaurants, including the Greenwich. I have almost closed the doors here several times.
Frankly, we're seeing more and more restaurants close, especially in Denver. And that's the heartbreaking part of this. And that's why we need to see some relief for restaurants.
The Colorado Restaurant Association is backing a new Democrat-led bill to change that formula, lowering the minimum tipped rate in cities where the minimum wage is higher than the state's minimum wage.
By law, no one is able to ever walk home with less than that full minimum wage. So this is not going to change the full minimum wage anywhere in the state.
The bill is controversial. Plenty of tipped workers don't want it.
As anybody who works in the service industry will tell you, tips are notoriously inconsistent. The amount you earn depends on countless variables, ranging from what the weather is like outside to the staffing levels at your business.
But the answer is not further cuts to your employees who already have the least job security and least guaranteed income.
In addition to those tipped employees, several city council members in Denver and Boulder, cities who have raised their minimum wage, are also against this bill. They've even sent a letter complaining that this would take away some of the local control. So Kyle, Dolores Tronco, the restaurant owner in this story, she tells me she also had a restaurant in New York City. If you can believe this, she said it's harder to operate a business in Denver than in New York because of the wages and the laws around it. So she's trying a couple of different pay models in her restaurant. Right now what they've settled on, it's been evolving, is a service fee, 20% on the bill. And the front of the house gets more of that, but the back of the house gets some. Everybody is making higher than minimum wage in her restaurant. That's what they're doing for now.
That idea of that 20% service fee, that's something that Denver Mayor Mike Johnson talked about recently on CityCast Denver on the podcast and got people all worked up about it because people were thinking he was talking about like a mandated city tax. Let's listen to what he said.
One idea we've been floating to restaurants is the idea of a service charge, which is if you do a service charge of 20%, you can gather that and you can spread it equally across all the employees. And for us, what's interesting, we've been floating with restaurants is with a service charge.
Are they going for that?
Yeah, I'm curious because I have to say, as a server, that doesn't sound appealing to me.
I understand, and you can understand, right? If you're a server making 120K and you're back of a house,
I want to meet this server. I'm so curious.
Maybe it's 100. I'm just telling you what restaurants have shared to me. Then you certainly wouldn't want to give that up. But the challenge is if you have someone else making 40 on the staff, you also have a huge disparity to it. So the question is, how would they want to do it?
So to clarify today, Johnson's office says this was an idea. This is not pen to paper, nothing formal, and it would be a voluntary program, not mandatory. That restaurant worker I interviewed said she would not support anything mandatory. She said every business has their own model. They should be allowed to do what is best for them. But it's kind of something people are kicking around. So,
well, interesting to see it actually in practice in some places.
Yes.
Get some feedback from them. How is it working from them? Others can look at that model. Jennifer Meckles, thank you very much.